Hey, I hear you. Do I hear you? Hey, I hear you. Yeah. Do I hear you? Oh, that's right. This fucking thing. So here we go, guys. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody. Jason Burmis here. Yeah, obviously some technical difficulties. I see Kristan is trying to get in, and he just texted me via Signal. We're going to have him on. He is there. We'll figure it out. Hopefully he'll text me back in a second. We have a ton to go over. And by the way, just before this, I got in touch with Addy Ads. Got to be honest, wasn't very familiar with his work. Started to get a little bit more familiar as this trial took place in New York as he was on the ground. And he recently confronted Vicky Ward about the fact that she was given all this information by Maria Farmer prior to any of this coming out. And that there was some kind of a relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell herself. So Addy Ads is going to be coming on 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. We're going to play that clip, and hopefully we can get Kristan in here. Obviously we need this guy. It's asking to join. Someone lets you in. What's going on here, man? No, let me see. Did I send him the right link? I hope that I sent him the right link. Hold on, it might be on my end. 1 second, guys. I apologize so much. So you're seeing me do it live and fail terribly here. The wheel keeps spinning. Hold on. Let me see. So hopefully I sent him the correct one, but we're going to find out right now. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. This is about my beatest broadcast ever doing this stuff, right? So let's see. Sent. And I did. I think I sent him the right one. It's right there. That's 453. Yes, that's the one we're on. I don't know that he's going to get in there. Jesus. You're not in there. Let's see. Oh, shit. No, it's my fault. My fault. See, I'm the jackass. I'm the guy that's messing things up. I sent him the wrong link. And now we're going to open the correct link and get him in. Sorry about that, everybody. Man, see, sometimes we're human. We just wasted 4 minutes of a broadcast. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Join now. Admit. Totally my fault, my friend. Totally my... Oh, wait. And I've got to get rid of this. I've got a whole clusterfunk of things going on here. Hold on. I got to get rid of somebody. Kristan, while we're doing this, tell people how they can support your work, where they can find you, Rundown Live, all that good stuff. I'm going to put that up on the screen, and until I get back ranting and raving and fixing this situation, you go, girl.
Well, I'll go get them, man. You guys are all hanging out there while Jason fixed stuff. Obviously, I do a show called The Rundown Live 5 days a week, and I've been in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial here for 1 full week, as well as I was a witness in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I was recently on with Jason, so I'm excited to be back. But therundownlive.com, I just published the transcripts of Jane Doe in its entirety. So you guys want to read the actual conversation that's going on, that's it. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is Ghislaine Maxwell drawing the artist in the courtroom. That's how psychopathic she is. She's like, you're not going to draw me. I'm going to draw you. That's exactly what's happening in that photograph. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting. I'm there every day, 5 days, and there's been there's been a lot of information given out there by Jane Doe, who we now know who Jane Doe is.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that in a second. Hold on. Before you even get to that story, and it looks like we have it all fixed up. So everybody thumbs this up, subscribe, and share. We apologize for the amateur hour info warrior here. But it's pro time because, hey, we got Kriston T. Harris inside the courtroom. Before we even, I like how you talked about Ghislaine Maxwell being a psychopath, staring back at the reporter, drawing her, because there's still people that are in my DMs or in my notifications that say, not one picture of Maxwell. She's not even at the trial. Sir, you are indeed in the courtroom. This is not a lookalike. This is indeed Ghislaine Maxwell before we go any further.
There is so much bizarre misinformation. The jurors didn't show up. They're being threatened. I saw that one by Prosebic that was put out there. And, it's funny because I was actually sitting on Friday's courtroom hearing, and the judge was like, I'm so happy all you guys are on time every day. It makes everything smooth. Every good thing is going quickly. And somebody asked me today, they heard the trial's actually over. And I'm like, in what world do these people live in? Like, where are they getting their information from? Like, is it like TikTok? I'm not sure.
It is TikTok. It's adrenochrome hashtag TikTok Epstein for sure. You're 100% right. So she is in the courtroom. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, which you were just alluding to, is that the lawyers have now revealed Jane Doe's identity a couple times in court. So, they've been either they've been flagrant about this or they haven't been able to contain themselves. What is your take on that?
I already knew who it was when they brought her on the stand. It wasn't a complete secret. It's a secret to the jurors who haven't paid attention to anything political. That's why they were selected. And I think that what is her name? Nadia Bjorn, Days of Our Lives star. She, already made allegations in 2019 that were publicized, and with linking together the band camp in Michigan and Interlaken, it really wasn't that difficult to figure out who she was and what was going on. She didn't try real hard to be anonymous. Well, let's put it that way. And, people it's just interesting because there's so many people out there. They're like, why won't she give her name? Why isn't it televised? Oh, no media is allowed in the courtroom. That was one spread by Tim Kennedy, the MMA fighter. It's just like, whatever happened to doing research and not just sharing headlines. Like, people have gotten into it where they get all their news from headlines. They get them in a 30-second TikTok. They get them, anywhere but doing their own research. That's something that we need to get back down to, is the fundamental research, questioning everything, listening to everyone, but doing your own research and proving it. Because if you don't prove it, you're going to see a lot of misinformation that's out there. And I've noticed that there's a lot of bizarre conspiracies right up there with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial was done on green screen. That's my favorite one.
Oh boy. All right. We don't even want to go there, or crisis actor Haven, or just the bizarre stuff, because again, you are inside the courtroom. That is so important. I think it is a mistake that this trial is not being streamed live, in the sense that if that happens, basically what they do is they take a camera, it's fixed, they never go to the actual person who's trying to remain anonymous. You hear the audio, usually the feed is from the lawyer, just like in the Rittenhouse, you would never get a glimpse at the jury. That could have been done. I think that the reason that is not done is because if any outlet were to do that, this would break the records of the OJ trial in the scope of the people that would actually be viewing it. And at the same time, the only reason the OJ trial was as big as it would have been because all of mainstream media was blasting it. And obviously, all of mainstream media is shuffling these stories into those 30-second sound bites 40 minutes into their hour block. So they're not amplifying it. It would just show more of the Orwellian society that we live in. But as an on-the-ground journalist there, you're not allowed to bring electronic devices in there. So you've actually been handwriting out the opening statements so that you can bring to the people exactly what you're witnessing. That's why people got to follow you at Kristan T. Harris. On top of, hold on, folks, because you need to go to the Rundown Live and you need to donate. Right here on the right-hand side, he's not even at $5,000. New York City ain't cheap. It ain't easy. It's, the key to slavery passes everywhere, as Kristan will tell you. What are some of the big takeaways you're writing down, you're hearing that the media is not focusing on?
Well, the first thing is that I acquired the transcripts, which is I was the first one to do so and publicize them that I know of. I searched a lot, and then within about 24 hours, is my transcripts going viral. The article had about 40,000 views. I noticed that other people started acquiring them, which I think is a smart move. I surgically selected Jane Doe and the butler because Jane Doe's testimony gives an idea and real details on what grooming is, especially the grooming interview where Epstein and Maxwell sat down with her at a summer camp for the gifted people whose children will probably go on to be in Hollywood, to be musicians that are prominent, get the support and money. It's kind of like the fast track to stardom as a youth. And they really got the information. Her father just died. He was a conductor in an orchestra in Palm Beach, Florida, where they were from. She had striking eyes. We heard the pilot say that. There's aspirations of things she wanted to be that Epstein could have helped with. So allows him to be the hero and to come in as a savior and have her look up to him. He found out all about her life ambitions, goals. She's fatherless. They were homeless. Her mother was living in a pool house of a neighbor with the entire family there, and they were hurting for money. And it was a desperate situation all along, including the fact that Jane Doe, or Nadia, as we can now call her, she had a bad relationship with her mother, and that all played into the factor that they were going to call her within a month of that first interview process when she was 13.
So let's get into this whole situation, my friend, because we know a lot of these girls were not only groomed, but abused sexually by Epstein, by others within that circle. Obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell, despite the media attempt to try to sometimes paint her as one of the victims, was anything but a victim. She was literally, almost like a swinger girlfriend, co-pedophile in many of these cases, in the recruitment process and in some of the sexual practice. Now, obviously, we don't have the slew of women that have made, women now, but who were girls, that have made accusations. And Annie Farmer is the only person who officially gave her name. What are your thoughts on the scope of this? And what are your thoughts on this play that Ghislaine Maxwell is somehow a victim as well and not involved in the sexual abuse of these kids?
Well, the whole narrative is that since Jeffrey Epstein hung himself, she's filling an empty seat. So she feels she's being unjustly prosecuted because Jeffrey Epstein is dead, and she is to stand up and be held accountable for Jeffrey Epstein's sins, per se. But what we're finding out based on testimony, and it's important because she could be completely let off because almost all the evidence is testimony. And there's no photographs, there's no video. This is 1998 to 2002. Things weren't as advanced. There weren't cameras on cell phones. There's pictures in the house. There's collaboration of information, like the butler's information supported Jane Doe. It absolutely did, because She would talk about the massage room and them using sex toys on her. The butler said, occasionally he'd clean up the massage room after a massage and there'd be sex toys. And he said I don't want to get into a double-sided dildo, and other things that they would have in their massagers, including Jane Doe's testimony that sometimes she felt uncomfortable and it hurt her when they used a massager on her vagina and she asked them to stop and they wouldn't. So there's, and Ghislaine Maxwell, it's weird. Her name is something like Jane Doe called her Glenn, and maybe that was just a slur. In the court, they call her Ghislaine, and then some people call her Ghislaine. So it's like she has all these different identities. It's interesting.
Weird. Somebody whose father was in the intelligence networks and the media has different names. Somebody in high society likes to be called multiple things. So weird. Let me hone in on this testimony thing, because I think it is really important. Now, as opposed to the idea that the butler actually corroborated some of these allegations of sex toys and obviously abuse, when the pilot gave his testimony, although he talked about individuals, he said that he never saw any kind of sexual activity at all. And then when he was pressed on Jane Doe and whether it could have been her, they kind of convoluted the subject that he could vividly remember somebody like Bill Clinton in the seat next to him, but couldn't be sure that, she was there. I've seen that in the media. You must have witnessed that firsthand. What do you think about the overall pilot's testimony in that aspect of the case?
I think his testimony is why he's the pilot. It's exactly why he was hired. He knew that, there was Epstein would have employees sign basically a gag order saying that anything that happens is to be silent. This pilot honored that, I'm guessing, in my opinion. I don't believe, at first his story contradicted Jane Doe, so I didn't know what to think because we don't have evidence. Like I mentioned, this is all testimony. So I could see that she could walk because it's like not beyond a shadow of a doubt, but we all know it is. We all know that they're criminals. We all know what they're involved in. The problem is having the evidence to support that, much like during Prohibition, going after and busting the mob was difficult, but as soon as they legalized it, they could get them for tax evasion and other things that were going on. I think that, she's going to definitely have her work cut out for her, and so will the defense, considering that was only one of 4 testimonies. The butler's testimony just collaborated and supported Jane Doe very profoundly, including law enforcement's testimony on Friday night, the last 20 minutes. I think that there's a good chance that things are turning. I think that the jury is going to be completely has to have their heartstrings pulled on in order for this to go a certain way in favor of putting Ghislaine Maxwell in jail, because without any actual evidence other than rumors and testimonies, we don't have any actual evidence. It's not like the Kyle Rittenhouse case where we have videos and photographs. All we know, we found out information. We found out that the Pope hangs out with Epstein, that Fidel Castro, all these important individuals, astronauts, politicians are all in on it. My biggest question has been so far, why, if you're a billionaire, do you need to target underage girls when there's 18 and 20-year-old said girls that you can find that look like they're 14? Like, it's because of the blackmail operation. You need to groom them and get the blackmail operation in order by finding these girls, and or Epstein was really attracted to 11, 12, and 13 and 14-year-olds, which may or may not be the case, because when Jane Doe was 22, Epstein was still trying to have a relationship with her. So I think it's more of the blackmail option. And we haven't heard 3 other testimonies that will be coming forward. And who knows, maybe Ghislaine herself will testify.
I really doubt that Ghislaine Maxwell herself will testify, but I think it's because of the scope of the available evidence. For instance, Virginia Giuffre Roberts is not testifying, and she did have a lot of photographic evidence. And when you talk about video evidence. You don't have, say, video evidence of the abuse actually taking place, or maybe you do and it just wasn't entered. We don't know, for instance, what was in that safe. NYPD, remember when you got that safe full of videos and photographs and nobody ever saw any of it, and so far it hasn't been introduced at all in this case? It's weird. I know that's a little weird. He had that passport too, issued from Austria with a Saudi Arabian address and identity. No big deal. But that's, when I hear what you're saying, it's almost as if the evidence is groomed around what's already public knowledge and what could be plausibly deniable, instead of going for the hardcore evidence that may or may not pose a national security risk if indeed what Vicky Ward, who was recently put on the spot and is in the arena around there, said is true, and I think we all know by now it is true, that Epstein was intelligence. And under that regard, someone like James Comey's daughter might even be the prosecutor, Kristan. I don't even know. I have no idea. Well, what are your thoughts on my little Ransky and Hutch there?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. Jim Marrs, the late Jim Marrs, had a book called Rule by Secrecy, and let's not forget the judges, part of a secret society called Quill and Daggers. It's like the sisterhood of Skull and Bones, Adam Weishaupt, Utopian, Bavarian Illuminati offshoot at the university where the judge graduated. She was part of that openly. They celebrate her as one of their key members. Quill and Dagger was the name of the organization. There's a lot of factors that come into play here. I don't think she's going to get off scot-free, but it depends on how the rest of the testimonies go. At first, I was very skeptical that she was going to get anything at all, just because everything was testimony and hearsay and opinions. But I could see after the first testimony and now the butler and law enforcement, and we got 3 more testimonies to go, if they collaborate that underage girls were being groomed in order to sleep with other individuals, because grooming doesn't mean that the person who's grooming you necessarily reaps the benefits of it. Like Epstein could have been setting up a blackmail operation. And as we know, I interviewed Larry Nichols, Clinton's former bodyguard for 20 something years. And he would talk about how they love to blackmail individuals. And the first thing they did when they got into prominent positions is pull up profiles and information on FBI agents or anyone that could be manipulated. Why wouldn't Jeffrey Epstein be a very valuable asset in taking people that you want to be able to have control over and tell them that this is their initiation into the cool boy club? We had Bill Gates there, Stephen Hawking, Chris Tucker, Bill Gates. You can go on. Who else was other? There's we mentioned the
Chris
Pope,
Tucker, Bill Gates. We've got Harvey
Yes.
Weinstein. We got John Glenn. We got Glenn Dubin.
Senators, astronauts, you name it.
And again, these are aspects of the trial that we've talked about a lot. And once again, when we look at the scope of this and the fact that the NYPD and the FBI were both told about Epstein back in the late 90s, well before the Palm Beach incident. And when the Palm Beach incident occurs, everybody talks about a sweetheart deal, but it was only after he was arrested again that the revelations were that he was actually leaving the prison a lot more than we were told he was leaving the prison, and he was going to private residences where young girls were going in and meeting him, according to private investigators, even while he was arrested. I want that to sink in. And again, that's still not something that's focused on or really public knowledge. And again, the intelligence aspect, the fact that Robert Maxwell was a tried and true associate of the Israeli Mossad, British intelligence, and also a part of the media, to the point, and we've been making this point again and again lately, to at first, back in the day when fake news wasn't supposed to exist, the Associated Press newspapers, Seymour Hersh is hoaxed over claim of new evidence on Maxwell Israeli link. Los Angeles Times, Mirrorgate, because the Mirror was one of his publications. A press empire strikes back. Scandal. Seymour Hersh has been accused of libel because of a book linking British journalists with Israeli Secret Service. And then it's like, 3 years later, and in the middle of the newspaper, they admit, oh yeah, U.S. author gets apology in libel case. And by that time, Robert Maxwell had already, died, fell off the Lady Ghislaine, and wasn't even there to issue the apology. Back in the early 90s when we could trust the news, Kristan. So this is a long time operation. And Robert Maxwell being involved in intelligence, the fact that the boat was named the Lady Ghislaine, the fact that the rest of his family kind of flourishes in these not only social but global and foundation, these tech arenas to this day, by the way. Whereas she was involved in those foundations and talks, but much more on the back end as kind of Epstein's partner in all this. People have speculated, and we don't want to cyberbully anyone here on YouTube, that she was, in fact, the big intelligence arm. You know what I mean? She was even deeper into the intelligence arena than Epstein himself. And obviously, that hasn't been a narrative that's been whispered in this trial.
Well, there was definitely rumors of Mossad connections. She's definitely, I think she believes that she can pull this off, but there's so much interesting information because she was a groomer. Give you an example, she was involved in the child rape of individuals, of underage girls. She actually groomed them and would go in the bedroom or massage room with Jeffrey Epstein and show the girls what Jeffrey liked, so that they would know how to massage Jeffrey all over, and that means everywhere, including his phallus, and give him gratification. And when they asked Jane Doe what would come to that, obviously eventually ended up in intercourse. And there's that Stockholm syndrome there. I see a lot of that argument going on. Well, she was in the relationship till she was 22 with Epstein. Why didn't she get out earlier? Well, there's that Stockholm syndrome. There's that guilt. There's the shame of admitting that you're wrong. And then obviously he paid for a lot of stuff too. Paid for the acting classes. Potentially why she's successful today might be a result of Jeffrey Epstein. That's why she's coming out after he died. I'm not quite sure. All I know is that it's a crime either way, regardless of what you say. Going after and targeting young, vulnerable women is a despicable act. And I believe that Jeffrey Epstein, if he did commit suicide and isn't sitting on an island sipping on margaritas somewhere with Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, he definitely got what he deserved, and he's an egomaniac enough to take his own life instead of letting somebody else do that, because that's the way those psychopaths think. So.
I really have a hard time believing that Epstein killed himself twice. But that's just me, no video evidence, either way on both of those attempts. But, again, I'm kooky. I'm a conspiracy guy. I'm the godfather of viral misinformation, according to the New York Post. That's done such great, or I'm sorry, not the New York Post. The New York Post actually done some pretty decent work on this case, whereas the New York Times is Balls McGrady. But anyway, that's, I'm the viral disinformation guy. We got 4 more people. You've been down there for the first week of this trial. How do you see this playing out? We've got so many more witnesses to come, 5, 6, 7 weeks. So, obviously it's very early to say whether it's going to be jail time. What are the maximum sentences that could happen to Ghislaine Maxwell? And what is on the agenda for the next week?
Well, she's already old, so it's probably life. In her viewpoint, maximum agenda is life. Obviously, we have 3 victims to hear from. There's probably other workers from within the Epstein complex. We've heard from the chauffeur, driver, and butler. We heard from the pilot. We've heard from 2 law enforcement officers that were involved. We also heard from Jane Doe. We have 3 other individuals that are testifying against Epstein that were also groomed, allegedly. And I think that if their stories collaborate with Jane Doe 1, that the defense will have a very difficult time proving her innocence beyond a reasonable doubt. However, they have a expert in false memories who will decide whether or not these people are doing something. I forgot the name for it, but it's where if you have lapses in memories, you make up artificial memories to fill the gap. And that's what they're trying to say. And if you ever wonder how they set this up, Ghislaine Maxwell was always in the room most of the time when Epstein was raping these girls, and is always in the massage room. Therefore, she could be like, "Oh, that child has an imagination." We were in the massage room. He was getting a massage. That's improper. I'm a witness. I was there in the room with them. She was always that crutch that allowed him and enabled him to take advantage of these young girls, which was despicable and disgusting. And it's tough sitting in the courtroom every day, listening to this stuff and not being angry and going home and being like, it's just negative energy. Just New York is horrible in general, bro. Like literally, it's medical authoritarianism at its finest. And I'm seeing people not with one mask, two masks, three masks, four masks, not enough masks. They wear a mask for everyone. They're living in fear, and they love it. They love it, and they want you to live in fear too. And it's just a bad place. I'm not feeling it. New York is definitely a authoritarian crap hole, in my opinion. And it's sad because I love the pizza, and there's good people here. And I enjoy the fact that there's a lot of people here. There's a variety of individuals. But this trial is going to be very interesting and could go any way at this point. However, I'm telling you that there's a good chance that Ghislaine Maxwell, Glenn Maxwell, will get off based on everything being testimony and there being no absolute evidence. However, I've noticed that they're starting to introduce more video footage. We're getting more black book footage. We're getting more information. We're getting more names. And that's what I'm all about. Who are the customers? And why aren't they being held accountable? Even the butler, yeah, that's sex trafficking. There's no way you didn't know that was going on. That's why the pilot denied ever seeing sex. It's sex trafficking if you knew it was going on. The butler was like, well, oh, yeah, I picked these girls up. I brought them to Epstein. I cleaned the room. Giant double-sided dildo. Maybe Epstein was taking it from behind. I don't know.
Yikes. All right. I want to shift gears a little bit. And by the way, New York is crazy authoritarian. It's why I haven't gone back and thought, I'm thinking about maybe at some point, because it's going to be a long one, maybe covering it, maybe after Christmas or something. But I moved away for a reason. And I realized New York City is not like the rest of New York, but it's bad enough in New York City, and it's bled out all over to the state. And talk about Stockholm Syndrome. If you don't think it's possible, we're seeing it on a massive global scale and massive in this country in this COVID 1984 nightmare. Don't even have 200 thumbs up over on YouTube. Can we scale them up? And then I want to talk to you about the protest that you went to over the weekend on Saturday. Nick Bryant was speaking. Alicia Owen was there. Chris Hedges was there. I know that you broadcast a little bit of that. I shared that on Facebook. Talk about that experience, what was going on, and how Nick Bryant was trying to highlight things like the Finders cult and the Franklin scandal. And really just recently, we had that new scandal come out with the CIA covering up high-level sex abuse in the case of, 2- and 6-year-old children being abused by agents.
That's really sad and horrible to hear about that. But, the Finders Club is something that our friend Derek Burrows, both of us have definitely know, has done extensive research on. If you want to know more about how government is involved in child trafficking, check out Derek Burrows' documentary on the Finders Club. He went through a lot. He did a lot of research, and there's a lot of threats that were going on, including him trying to interview the law enforcement officer that wrote the initial information. The FBI did a data dump, but essentially it kind of dives into this grooming process that seems to be almost MK Ultra-esque. They have these steps, they use it, and it's very governmentalist to see Epstein and hear in court that he's using very similar MK Ultra grooming steps. It's not by chance. It's like he learned it. Like he read a book on how to be a creep and pedophile in order to farm these girls and get blackmail information on people for organizations that may or may not be affiliated with our government. Um, it's I don't know what to say about this. It's very disappointing to see that humanity has gotten to the point where there's people defending Jeffrey Epstein. There's people out there, saying that this person is this happens. It's normal. It's just not in your country. It's illegal. It's disgusting to take advantage of young innocent children. And at one point, it was weird because every night Epstein would send Jane Doe home with a stack of cash, and we would see that her mother was getting paid. And when Jane Doe got a boyfriend at 22 and stopped calling Epstein, he got all jealous and was really bizarre and saying, "Remember who took care of your family," and still does to this day. Show some respect, and gives you a mentality that for a billionaire, he felt weak for a little bit.
Well, and it's just that sociopath mentality that I have the power, I own you. And when you talk about parents being involved in these things, once again, the secret CIA files say staffers committed sex crimes involving children. Yeah, some of those children in the child pornography that was being distributed was filmed by their own mothers. Unfortunately, most of us can't understand that human demons walk the earth. I don't care if you believe in Jesus Christmas or a little red man down below. Good and evil do exist. And some of this shit, like you've seen, is inherently evil. And those vibrations are very real. Go beyond the Epstein case, but what you're witnessing right now in real time, where they want the fourth industrial revolution of real fear in New York City, right? That low vibrational energy, it's everywhere. How do we overcome it, man? I feel like guys like you and me that are trying to tell people about this and explain that it's not just in movies and media and that it does exist. How do we overcome it?
Well, first of all, you have to get some good cologne because Maxwell smells like sulfur even through the TV in the overflow room. But I guess the big thing is there's a lot of negative energy here in New York. Like we need to have positivity in our life. We need to make changes in our life and realize we can't control everything, but what we can impact is local. We can impact our local government, school board, going into school meetings, bringing people, spreading the word about the Info Warrior program by Jason Burmis here and supporting them. Go out there, like this guy up here on top of me. You guys need to donate and support him. I know I'm out in New York City, but without Jason Burmis, there's a lot less support out there, a lot less voices. Drop a donation, drop a super chat for him. This man has worked nonstop and has spent and dedicated his life, like me and many other people, into exposing the truth. And it's a very thankless choice in life and direction. And if you guys want to be part of that, it's your opportunity to be part of the story. If you want to be part of the story of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, you can donate to the Rundown Live, rundownlive.com. You can go onto our website. We have a Kickstarter started. You can donate via PayPal, Venmo. I do updates twice a day, just like Jason does. You want to support me and keep a journalist in New York to get the transcripts, to get the information, to be able to identify what we need to hear versus fluff, and expose the misinformation that so many celebritarians are spreading without even checking their resources and information based on I don't know where they get their facts from. It's like they get them from tabloids these days. You can check it out at rundownlive.com. Check out Jason Burmis, anyone affiliated with our network, because we're not competition, right? We're collaboration. That's what it's about. We're about collaboration. I'm not here, and I'm not worried that Jason Burmis, if he reports on this, is going to take money away or whatever. It's about getting the truth out to you guys.
Exactly. And, I want to say that we are both over on Rockfin. Earlier today, I did an
Yes.
hour-long interview with Pat Miletich. That's why we had kind of the hiccups. I sent him the wrong Google Meet link. So I sent you the earlier link. That's why we had the third person over there, and I had to go fix it up. That's my jackassery. I could always use the help. But we're both on this platform. We don't have to censor the conversation on this platform, which is awesome. Whereas we see YouTube more and more censoring all sorts of different things. And again, my last quote-unquote strike was a cyberbullying via an Epstein video from January of 2020, just after his suicide, if you will. Monday morning, that's tomorrow morning, I believe, 7 or 8 a.m. Eastern, this thing kicks off again?
9:30. They've been pretty generous. Excuse me, verbal disaster. They've been pretty generous about times. I know the Kyle Rittenhouse trial was 8:39. This is 9:30 every day, 500 Pearl Street. And like we mentioned, there was that Jeffrey Epstein or Justice for Epstein event that was really interesting. We need more of those. We need to see more people in New York City. The media is becoming less and less in the courtrooms. I saw Slate. Isn't Slate the organization that wrote I'm a pedophile and I'm not a monster? Like, they're in the courtroom. Vanity Fair is in the courtroom. We have the New York Times in the courtroom. You know who we don't have? Anyone else in the media in the courtroom. It's all independent people. It's all local citizens. And there's literally 3 or 4 overflow rooms for people. So out of the 100 people, probably less than 14, 15 people are actually mainstream media. Everyone else is independent, and there's more local people, by that being people flying in for California, New York, or people who are just interested in the trial than there is media there. And it blows my mind that there's such a lackluster, at Kyle Rittenhouse, I was there every day, and there was every media outlet sitting out there, antennas blasting, so much media. There's almost nothing here compared to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. That blows my mind. It makes me feel sick to my stomach, because child trafficking, look at your daughter, look at your son. Even if they're fully grown adults, and just ask yourself if at some point they were stolen from you, or you went through a hard time, or you were an addict, or whatever it might have been, and those kids were taken from you, they could have ended up just like anyone else involved with Epstein. So we need to really dive deep in supporting people like the rundownlive.com, Jason Burmis, everyone else out there that supports and brings awareness to this, that has been out there and supporting us. Follow me, Kristan T. Harris on Facebook, Kristan T. Harris on Twitter. The Rundown Live is everywhere. Just Google The Rundown Live. Get the transcripts. Read for yourself. Don't believe the headlines. And follow Jason Burmis, because that's where you're going to find more of truth.
Thank you, bro. Hey, I really appreciate it. And again, we'll have you on during the week. It's always rough. I know you're on the run. New York City internet, the people, this trial, like you said. And it's not always great to just talk about this dark stuff. It's nice that you and I get to kind of be a little bit more lighthearted and we enjoy each other's company. But when you're pounding, like you're there, like you said, writing this stuff down, going, holy shit. Oh my God. And then you got to do 4 hours of interviews with other people talking about the same dark thing. It's not always easy to sleep at night. So I commend you, brother.
No,
no,
that's
it's
facts. It's like PTSD. It's bizarre, but you're right. You're thinking. You're always trying to think. That's why I said I don't know if she gets prosecuted and indicted. I've been thinking about it a lot, and everything is testimony. And we need some hard evidence, even though we know what's going on. And the testimonies repeatedly show what's going on. So either the jury has an emotional decision, or they do it based on the evidence. And if it's based on the evidence, well, there isn't much evidence other than testimony. So,
not what people want to hear, but I'm glad I got somebody
just
on the
being
ground.
honest.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I want honesty. We've got to know this stuff. So like I said, man, hopefully we'll get you on again later in the week. Love your work. And again, the Rundown Live, and make sure to support Mr. Harris and his media operation. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right. Thank you again, Jason. Pleasure as always. We'll have to get you on the Rundown Live soon. Have a good one, bro.
Can't wait. So there it is, guys. Another great segment little botched in the beginning. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share on the way out. Remember, the GoFundMe is how we're doing it right now. I don't push it too much, but definitely have to right now with the crypto crash. And, look, it's the holidays. Everybody knows about inflation. So if you want to support this broadcast, we do it live. I'm trying to do some more longer form broadcasts, some more interviews. We're going to have Addy Ads on talking about the Vicky Ward aspect and his confrontation with her on the ground in New York City, among other things, expanding on this case. Guys, not about left or right, always about right and wrong. We got to become the great resistance right now to this kind of great tyranny. This is the Great Reset agenda. Just erase history. Just be sociopathic. Just molest children, right? All for the greater good. Yeah, that's going to bring a greater good. Not on my watch. I'll see you on the flip side, guys. Love y'all.